And we are live. Hello, everyone. Hello, Chris Miller.
Hello. It's a great time for video games, let me tell you.
It's E3 time. I don't know if you've heard. Everyone's heard. It's YouTube promotes it even on the front of their channel. Like when I was going on YouTube to start this, the link by the YouTube thing says /E3 even before like I put it anything gaming. It's just because there's E3 streams going on. It's all over the internet. It takes over all the streams right now. So
this is a great time because not only is it E3, and I know we're not going to talk about this, but the NHL offseason is going to be fucking wild starting
Yeah. Well, hey, that's not completely unrelated because we're here to start by reacting to EA's press conference, which aired on Saturday. You'll notice for those listening, we're getting these up a little late because E3 starts on the weekend, but we'll have all our reactions to the press conferences from E3 by Wednesday. So you can expect those by Wednesday this week. But we're starting here with EA. They got kick-started on Saturday. It was actually not a long press conference. I was kind of surprised. It was a little short. They didn't
an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, they didn't show a lot of games either, did they? Like from a variety standpoint, like they did bring out a few things. Obviously, there were your big guns, which you would be remiss if you didn't mention Battlefront 2. That was their big to-do, if you will. I felt like they dedicated most of the time to the entire press conference to Battlefront 2, but we did get a little bit of sports. We did get a little bit of FIFA, a little bit of Madden.
They talked, I believe, 8 games in total.
That's not many, especially when you
compare it to... That's what I have on my list, at least, 8 games. Especially
when you compare it to the other press conference. So Chris has a list of specifically what they covered. So go ahead, Chris, give us a rundown, and we'll kind of get some of our thoughts on
if you want to, so we'll start with the sports. We'll get it out of the way, because honestly, as much as I love playing some of these games, it's not a major part to talk about. So we'll start with the shittiest one out of the way. NBA Live 18.
Oh, man. I can't believe they're making another NBA Live game. So they've been a year without, I believe. Last year, they did not make an NBA Live game. They made one in 2016 that I believe tanked. There was bugs, graphical issues, modes missing. I believe it was one of their first forays with basketball for EA on a new console. So the Xbox One and PS4, which aren't really new anymore. But I was surprised that they're doing another basketball game, especially considering basketball seems to be the sport that 2K consistently destroys EA at.
I will say I kind of wish other games would go this route though, where you take at least a year off. Like do one every 2 years.
Well, they're sports games for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
even just
that's one of the
extra year in between. A, it makes you can really make the game a lot better, and B, it actually makes me feel like I've earned my $70 or $80 I spent, and I'm not spending $80 on a new one every year.
Or sorry, the values there. You mean like it was worth the money you put out? Yeah.
Yeah. EA's been like that with the fact that they can improve it. Yeah. Basically, they showed a brief trailer, which they really were focusing more on the
story stuff.
Well, that wasn't not a little
that was
bit.
FIFA. Sorry, that was FIFA.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't really much that one. This one was more. They were showing up like
that was real.
Look at the graphics and all this, and then they ended up discussing in the NBA one. I guess they're gonna combine like street ball with NBA tournament play or something like that. Where I guess you can go the route of a street ball player in the Be a Pro type thing they have.
And you can rise through the ranks of but it just seemed like you're still playing basketball, right? Like it didn't seem like.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not gonna buy it. If I do buy a basketball game, it will always be 2K until proven otherwise. Because even 2K is not that good right now, in my opinion. But this series has been atrocious, probably for a decade.
I mean, and there's not really that many. Like, how many total NBA Lives have they made? Right?
Like, they used to make a ton of them.
Yeah, in the aughts.
It used to be
2K kind of established that dominance, and there was a long drought. Like even before the bringing it up a couple of years ago, I felt like there was a long drought of 3 or 4 years where we heard like everyone just kind of assumed EA was out of basketball. It was like, I mean, that makes sense. You guys kind of dominate the FIFA, the hockey, and the.
It's like 2K hockey, right? How often what's the last time they even released a 2K hockey?
2K hockey,
2008.
NBA Live did nothing for me. I hope. No. The only thing I hope is that it launches unbroken, because that to me that's the next step this studio needs to make.
They need a game that works.
Yeah, fine. You're doing another NBA game. I get it. you own the license to, or you have access to that license. It's EA. But the last game launched in such a mess that, anything that releases even close to that, like it has to work perfectly out of the gate, like just to even win favor back, just to say, hey, I mean, that doesn't even consider the modes and whether or not, what's there is actually worthwhile.
Visually, it looks good, but visual aspects very minor compared to the rest to me in an NBA game.
And a lot of games look good visually nowadays, so yeah.
We'll move on from that because it was probably the most minor part of this entire conference.
Yeah, and I mean, they did a touch on Madden, like briefly. I remember at the Open there was a bunch of drummers or something that came out with Madden things, and then they brought out a bunch of people just to kind of give a quick, hey, Madden's still here. I don't think any other sports games other than FIFA actually featured either. Like I don't think
Madden they released like a long shot trailer or something, I think they call it, and it's like a story. It's like a movie mode to your be a pro experience. It's kind of like what FIFA did last year. And actually it looked cool. I will say it actually looked cool as hell. Like it had some like Friday Night Lights shit going on.
Yeah, like coaches getting inspiring players and that type of stuff. Yeah.
I was kind of down for that. And like even like going like drinking beers in the car or something. I was something in the car. Anyway, I kind of dug it. But with that being said, I think and we'll touch on this in a second with my opinion on FIFA, because I think I even expressed to you I have a very strong opinion of FIFA's Be a Pro and the way they went about it last year. Mm. But they need to be careful with the story mode because there's certain limitations you put on a game like that when you introduce this stuff. The
2K's even experimented with this. I haven't played the 2K17. I played 2K16. For those who don't know, by the way, the only sports games I usually play are hockey and I will occasionally play the 2K basketball game. But the 2K basketball game from 2016 had the story mode where it was like a character and you're named, and you don't get, like Chris, you're talking about the limitations. Like if you can't choose a player name or like the family type you're in or anything like that, like that suddenly just seems real unrealistic the moment you start throwing the guy that you want to build. Like at a certain point in those situations, they might as well just build the character for you. They might as well not even let you pick what he looks like or anything like that, because it's like you've basically built a character here already narratively. And I could throw a guy with a mohawk on there, but then everything just looks weird because nobody reacts like he's a punk rocker or whatever, right?
And the way NBA 2K16 did it is they at least let you put your own name, but like they still called you the Freak, right?
The Freak, frequency vibrations was what that was short for.
And then you could have you could still put your name, so on the back of your jersey would have your name and stats at least.
Directed by Spike Lee, that was directed by Spike Lee.
So this is my issue. I'll get to FIFA here because we're going to kind of talk probably about more FIFA and Madden together. First, let me say FIFA and Madden are probably the two best made EA games sports wise.
From that's what I've heard. I've heard
NHL is third easily.
People speak pretty highly. Yeah, and there's the odd year where someone's like, FIFA and Madden were down this year.
FIFA is hands down.
And that's usually the year that everyone's like, NHL was better this year. But
FIFA is hands down number one. FIFA is number one, not even close. They focus so much attention on it because it is such a worldwide game for them. Here's the issue I have with their Be a Pro, and they announced that they're doing the Alex Hunter thing again.
Which is their equivalent of the frequency vibrations, right?
Yeah, except here's the thing. You literally are Alex Hunter. You don't get any kind of name on the back that's different. You don't get none of that. And the story mode has an ending. And it ends not that far into it.
Okay, so it's not like it's not really then a Be a Pro with a story. It's a story mode that happens to feature you playing soccer as well.
Yeah. And once you're done playing as Alex Hunter, he goes to your ultimate team, and you get to use his card.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which I don't mind that. I think that's actually kind of cool, because then it rewards the people who really put the time and effort into that card. Because if you don't really try to train, you just play whatever, your card's gonna be shit at the end, right?
Yeah.
But if you put the effort in, you'll actually be a really good player. I like that. I hate the limitations. Like I said, I don't want to for just so you know, he's a black kid named Alex Hunter. And no, I'm not racist, by the way, by any means. But I kind of want to be white, personally. If I'm going to make a character, I want him to reflect who I am.
I'm sure, too, that FIFA also has a proper Be a Pro equivalent, right? Where you can build whatever player you want to build. It's just it doesn't? Not at all.
That is its new Be a Pro.
Yeah,
but from what I understand, that was what it was last year. At least I'm assuming it's going to be the same.
So in last year's edition, there was no create a player at any position that you want and play it. You have to pick Hunter, and he picks.
Well, you can create a player and add him to a team and run a normal franchise mode,
but you can't be a pro like you would in NHL, where it's like, oh, I could pick. No. Okay, that's weird.
I mean, you could just lock onto a position, I guess, and do it that way. But I mean,
that's not the same thing.
No, it's not. So I don't know if they'll change it this year. Otherwise, I don't think they really talked much about FIFA. It was like they had
those YouTube commentary people who do a show about soccer over in Europe show up. They had a goofy name, the Blazers and Jeans or whatever, right? You know what I mean? Those guys.
I don't think it was that. Yeah, something like that. I know what you mean.
There's something about Blazers. They were wearing Blazers.
Blazers was definitely in it.
I had no idea who they were, and odd thing for them to bring out. I get it. FIFA's a big deal, but isn't FIFA more of a big deal overseas? I mean, this is in LA. FIFA. Like, I'm not saying that doesn't mean they shouldn't focus on FIFA, but like the crowd didn't react. Like when those YouTubers came out, the crowd doesn't react like, oh, we know who these people. Everyone was like, who are these guys? I have no idea. What's soccer? Like I don't know. Like that just seems like a weird. Like, this happens all the time with press conferences when they focus on trying to bring out personalities associated with the games. It's like, but you're at a press conference that's like to the public. It's large. Like there are going to be groups of audience that have no idea what this is, and it's like that's fine. It's just if they're speaking so vague or either too vague or too specific that it just leads to a situation where you're just like, this segment is not for me at all. Like they're not even selling me on FIFA at this point because they're not even highlighting FIFA. They're basically kind of just saying there's a story mode and there's commentators who like it.
FIFA is not major in the United States. It's bigger in Canada
and Europe, right?
Yeah, it's definitely it's literally the game in Europe.
Yeah, obviously, football is a huge deal overseas.
I would imagine like basketball would probably be the next closest in terms of.
I think Madden is your big one in the States.
In the United States, absolutely, because they don't have a baseball one. I don't know why.
Yeah, EA doesn't do one. It's ML. Well, I think it's the rights. I think because remember, rights have a lot to do with this. For the longest time, there was a studio that used to do. I don't think it was EA. There was another studio that was doing college football, like not soccer, but like college football. But then those rights change over. Like, was it 2K who did that?
I think 2K did it.
And then eventually, I think EA started getting into it, like an NCAA. Like the rights for this stuff always changes. You'd have to look it up to figure out who has the rights now. From what I know, EA has most sports rights, but I don't know if they have baseball because MLB does.
Well, yeah, I mean,
the show. I don't know who makes that. Is that PS4 exclusive?
It is a PS4 exclusive, yes.
So a Sony developed studio has the exclusivity rights to.
Which I like because that's one of the biggest reasons when I got PS4 in the first place.
You've talked on air about MLB the show. You're a fan.
San Diego studio does that game, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's get to the big stuff. I mean,
let's get to stuff. Okay. First and foremost, I'm gonna just say it. I think
let's talk. There's one little more minor thing, just because it's not really a big deal. The game's already been out, but they did talk quickly about adding new maps and an expansion to Battlefield 1, a Russian expansion, I believe it was.
Oh, yes, that's correct. That looked actually kind of dope.
Good. The maps.
I really dug the aesthetic sick. And the like.
I love night maps. Obviously, night maps are the shit.
The time period enabled them to create. I think it looks like that the DLC has some villain based on on Russian history. It seemed like there was some czar or something that you would be fighting against. That seemed pretty interesting. I actually never played Battlefield 1, but I almost was sold completely just by the narrative structure of how that game worked. So instead of having a campaign that was like Call of Duty, where it's, you have your characters and you're walking through a set campaign where events happen and maybe there's plot twists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They decided to go different and do series of self-contained stories. So it'd be like you go to this point in the war and you're a pilot. And now this is going to be a story about this pilot. And they'll do a backstory about where this pilot came from and what he was in America. And then this is him overseas, or what he was in Europe, whatever have you. And then another story would be a completely different character that has no association with that character whatsoever at a different point in the war. And I like that idea of just chapters instead are just, an hour or two of a story of a single character. And I'm curious to see if they do any of that with this bizarre stuff, because you could jump around a lot. But a part of me thinks that they won't, because it seems like they were leaning into, this is your bad guy. He's, this is your Russian villain type thing. So who knows? But the game's pretty for sure. That engine is great. That engine looks very beautiful.
I was gonna say, that they all look good. I mean, that's not an issue for them.
Yeah.
So we're gonna leave a certain one that we both really want to talk about to a little bit later, because I think we're gonna go on for a while on that one.
Oh yes, I'm sure that yes, but I want to talk about what I think was game of show for EA, not game of show.
This is what I was talking about.
Oh really?
I'm not talking about the big AAA title here.
Oh okay, so you want to do Battlefront is what you're talking about right now?
No, I got another one first. Let's go through in terms of excitement.
Sure.
So let's quickly talk. Let's talk quickly about Need for Speed.
Yeah, Need for Speed Fast and Furious. Sorry, it's called Payback.
Payback. Yeah.
Payback. Yeah, it is interesting.
It looks like a combination of a Need for Speed game and Burnout,
with a little Fast and Furious thrown in. You were doing some stunt like stuff in some of those scenes.
Kind of okay with that.
For me, it's really going to come down to structure in that game.
Yeah.
Like the trailer looked good. You had your car scenes, or sorry, your chase scenes with the cops. The new gimmick seemed to be you could actually initiate as you were driving, like pull up behind a semi that was carrying another vehicle, and like you would initiate a button that would cause a cinematic moment where you end up in the semi, you crash your car, and then you get another car that's nicer and faster, and you drive out with that. Like it seems like there is a narrative experience there that stuff is going to feed into, and then there's takedowns as well. Which have been in the series before.
Yep.
The thing for me is it open world or not? That's really going to determine my interest in it, because I just don't like.
They announced it was.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I must have missed that bit, because I don't like racing games that are open world. I like them from a play perspective, but I prefer an open world experience playing racing games usually.
You watched Giant Bomb stream, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. They mentioned it. That it was.
They mentioned that it was okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it had been confirmed.
Okay, so it is.
That sounds kind of cool. So,
and is it Criterion doing that? I believe Criterion is the only people doing.
So yes, I want to say yes.
I quickly look here.
Checking.
This one's developed by Ghost Games.
Oh, okay.
Not Criterion. Employees of Ghost Games include former staff members of EA Black Box, Criterion, and Playground. So some of Criterion, they have recently done. They did the 2015 Need for Speed, which was a franchise reboot, and before that, they did Need for Speed Rivals, which was also worked on by Criterion Games. So, and I believe Rivals was really the last one that a lot of people really liked. I think the reboot did not get as well received, which was the one that came out a couple of years ago.
What was the last Need? I'm trying to figure out what one I liked a lot.
I think the reboot was the last Need for Speed game too, if I recall correctly, because I think it's been a couple of years. I don't know if we got one last year.
It's the last Need for Speed game I honestly played and enjoyed was Hot Pursuit back in 2010.
Okay. For me, it would have been even before that. I actually didn't pick up Rivals or Hot Pursuit. My last one would have been probably even PlayStation 2 days. There were the days where they were doing like Carbon and Underground. And
Most Wanted is my favorite Need for Speed ever. For me,
a lot of people really dig the police stuff, and that stuff's always been fine for me. But I always dug more give me a crazy open world. Let me make my car look as stupid as I can. Like I want to grab a nice car and then just throw as many dumb flame jaw. Like I just want to.
Yeah, Hot Pursuit was kind of unique at the time because you could play as the cops and take down actual.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the hook of Hot Pursuit.
And that was the big one where they started bringing in the takedowns and all that, like more and more. Like they really put an emphasis on that kind of stuff. It actually won quite a few awards and was nominated for quite a few as well. That was the last one. I think
based on what you've seen, how likely are you to pick up this version? Did this trailer
price
sell you enough? No.
I think it might have sold me enough to eventually get it when it's a bit cheaper.
Okay.
I don't think I could ever buy a Need for Speed game at $80.
The game would have to be more like, for me, if that were the case, if I was going to dump $80 on a Need for Speed game, not only would the single player experience have to be long enough, like 20, 30 hours, that I would go, okay, there's something here. And then there would have to be a compelling enough multiplayer component that is different than just race. And they started. I know that Rival started experimenting with that. The 2013 version. They were looking for newer mode types, different things. So I'll be curious to see kind of how the multiplayer component of this looks.
Yeah, I'm kind of have to wait and see, because racing games, they can look good, but
They
even
generally
Forza,
always look good from a visual perspective.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love Forza. Like back when I had the Xbox, like I was big on Forza, but I would never spend that kind of money on a game like that. It's one of those games I'll pick up here and there and play a little bit. But
I know people who used to, you got your fans, your car fans who are really big into those type of games. Like Gran Turismo is the same thing. I could never spend a full amount, because for me it's just like, but you're just jumping from racetrack to racetrack. Like there's no, like I said, open world is a huge deal for me, because it's just like, what if I don't want to race? I just literally want to drive around and mess around for like sometimes you're just in the mood to do that, right? In a traditional racing game that isn't open world, you really don't have the freedom to do that.
It's why I kind of liked Most Wanted. While technically not open world in a way, it had a lot of stuff where you could just kind of fuck around, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I could play it.
Yeah, like the Burnout, I feel Burnout kind of popularized that idea of like, let's mess around in an open world and have some fun, right? So
yeah. Okay, so we'll move on. We'll go one more
before we build here.
Before we get to the one you want, we'll have one more talk here. So, okay. Anthem, which was BioWare's new game. They did a little teaser on it.
Yeah, so they show more of that at Microsoft's press conference, which has already aired by the time we've recorded this. I've seen it. I'll wait for my reaction on Anthem for the Microsoft press conference, because the teaser that they showed at the EA press conference was kind of limited. It didn't really give an idea of what the game was at all. Like, you have yet to see the Anthem coverage on the Microsoft press conference, correct?
Yeah, I have not seen it. I've
only
seen the first half.
What do you believe, based on the teaser that you've seen at EA, that game is?
It kind of had like a Destiny feel to it, just because it had like the power armor. Right, actually, it was weird because it has power armor. Like, it makes me feel like there's definitely gonna be some like big monster type guys.
So I'll just leave it at that. We'll talk more about this during the reaction to the Microsoft press conference, which will probably be the next record. So I'll say that I wasn't disappointed by the teaser at EA for it. I was intrigued because I'm a BioWare guy, but it's
let me ask this:
a game that really wowed me, like since maybe Mass Effect 2.
Did the Microsoft trailer make you think this game's gonna be awesome?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. I was way more interested post Microsoft after you saw what the kind of better idea of what the game was. So the teaser they released, I think, did the job of saying BioWare is working on a new IP. It's different. It does look different than a traditional BioWare game, and I'll say that the Microsoft press conference does a good job of showing exactly why it's so different.
Okay, so A Way Out.
Jay, you want to do A Way Out before Battlefront?
Let's do A Way Out.
So to me, A Way Out was my game of EA's press conference. No Way Out, I thought, wasn't it called?
Nope, it's A Way Out.
It's A Way Out. This is the game by the guy who did Brothers, or the studio that did Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which is a game that released a couple years ago. It was a weird co-op game where you actually could use one controller, and each person would use one control stick, and they would control the players. It was kind of a puzzle platformer, sort of, and you would use the two characters in conjunction to go through the narrative and solve the puzzles and figure everything out. I didn't play a lot of Brothers. I think I played a couple hours of it. A lot of people dug it. It was really interesting. I actually didn't have high expectations for this game until I saw it in action, and oh my goodness, is it doing things that I just want to see. For starters, it's forced co-op, and I don't mean you have to play it like online or with someone in person, like from that perspective, like, oh, you'll just play it with an AI instead. I mean forced as in you absolutely need to have another human player with you. The game will not run without it. The second big thing it does is, on top of being forced co-op, the split screen that they use, can be anything can happen at different times. So one person could be engaged in a cutscene while the other person is engaged in running around the universe and world. And the interesting thing is, as you're watching, you'll see the person you'll see the person who's in the cutscene. You'll see their cutscene, right? Because it's split screen. So you'll actually see the cutscene that they're engaged in. And it seemed like they were using that to leverage, like, the interesting things. So for starters, it's a prison break game, or that's what they kind of the narrative that they were throwing out based on everything they showed. I couldn't tell if it was you and a brother or you and just an inmate or a friend, but it looked like you and the two main protagonists were trying to escape from prison. You would solve puzzles, and some of the ways they were showing like how you could do things differently would be like one player is pushing an empty cart around while the other player is like gathering intel, and then you like meet in the storage room, and the second player gets inside of the laundry cart, and then the perspective on the second player screen as it's first person is just the outside, just inside of the laundry cart, and you're looking out. And then of course the other person's perspective is they're pushing the laundry cart, and you're using that to kind of to get around and solve figure out how to move out to the next area of the prison. It did show that it looked like there were scenes outside of prison, so it seems like there could be some depth to the game. No combat from what I saw, though. No like guns, no gunplay. It just seemed like you have to solve things kind of.
The storyline of the game is you escape prison, and the majority of the game is staying on the run from authorities.
Okay, that's
There's gonna be a lot of it outside. I think the prison stuff is very much at the beginning.
So in a lot of ways, I'd say the TV show Prison Break probably inspired this to a degree, because I have seen the first season of that show, but I know that they do seasons outside of prison. It seemed interesting. Like it seems so different than what you're used to seeing.
That really needs more love, and by genre I mean local multiplayer, co-op, that kind of stuff. That stuff, especially split screen co-op, is such a thing of the past that I feel like I just I work at Best Buy, for those viewers who don't know, and I get questions all the time like, what games
are good for
split screen co-op? And I'm like, there's not much at all.
There's a lot of good couch multiplayer games in that genre, or sorry, that
besides Borderlands, there's really not much.
The couch multiplayer game genre has kind of like rose to prominence, but it's usually competitive. It's usually things like like Nidhogg, like Gang Beasts, like something where it's fun to do this with a bunch of people on a couch, but you're playing against each other. There's not a narrative experience.
Even a racing game, there's not much in terms of, and these people are specifically looking for like they first wanted to know if Uncharted was that, and I was like, no,
that's all single player,
and that's the thing. That's the kind of game they want. They want a story mode, an adventure mode. Like if Last of Us had it, for example, a game like that would have been perfect.
Yeah, Resident Evil would be the last one I could think of, and that didn't actually start till 5, where you could play co-op. But they had forced AI, so like if you didn't play with a partner, the partner would still run around, but it would be the AI doing it.
I kind of love that they force it.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea, and I think
I realize it's going to limit people, but I think for the people who are just like, I want to see the story, since this looks to be mostly a story game anyway, it seems like the type of things you'll be doing from a gameplay perspective are mostly puzzle solving. That's what it seems like. It seems like it's a thinking man's game for sure.
Like let's keep in mind, a lot of kids, especially when they get college, university, live with other friends who have consoles or play games. So I think they're still going to do well, and the fact that it's kind of right now probably going to end up being the star of these kind of games for probably quite some time. They should do well. I mean, it's going to be the game to get if you want to play with some buddies in the house and you want to play a co-op adventure.
And you want to do something other than just shoot a gun, right? Like, no offense, I'm a shooter fan, but lots of games are shooters, and if you want to play a co-op experience or a multiplayer experience,
I can go buy Destiny or
exactly. There's a infinity other of them. I was just gonna say the other couch co-op game I had played a while now, but I think came out like 2011. That would have been Portal 2. You could play through. There was a co-op. It wasn't the main narrative of the game. It was its own story, but this definitely was my big takeaway from EA's press conference. I want to check this out. I definitely would love to get together with, and you can do it online or together. Obviously, you can do it couch co-op or with a friend, but it's obviously recommended to do with someone because who's going to want to randomly get on mics with a stranger to solve puzzles. Like that seems to be the ideal experience for playing with friends, right? So, or a friend, I guess, in this case.
Yeah. So that was my star too.
Yeah, I didn't expect it, and I didn't expect it. Like when I first saw, I was like, "Oh, this is from the guy who did Brothers," so I was expecting another to scale indie game and to see kind of a more grittier, like prison setting in like a pseudo real. It kind of had some Grand Theft Auto vibes to how the characters looked, and I was like, I'm digging this. This is working for me. So
yeah. And okay, so and then we'll get to the girl from True Blood and a whole bunch of other shit came out.
Yeah,
and I believe she's
in the game. She's who
she voices the main character, right?
The main character through the narrative experience. Which other than bringing her out, the most of the footage they showed at E3 was not narrative based, which I think is okay because the teaser and the trailers they released leading up to E3 were all saying, "Hey guys, we have a story. It's serious." We have I always forget the name of them. They're called what are they? The Inferno Squad? Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the narrative of the game is set between episodes 6 and 7, so just before Force Awakens, or I believe it's actually just after Return of the Jedi, because Luke is in it, because I remember in the trailer he was. So yeah, but they didn't really focus on the narrative stuff she was delivering. It was a weird segment because they brought her out to then deliver a bunch of like.
They brought her out because she's hot as hell, and they wanted the guys to enjoy it.
Come on, she was delivering like spec. She was like, and this will run frame rate. And you're just like, what is she saying? Like, look at this mode, and you're like, this is.
She had this attitude, which kind of made me laugh because she was like kind of partially in character. I thought she did a good job. Honestly, she was funny.
I didn't doubt that she was. And that's the one thing is that when they bring these celebrity people on, a lot of the time you're like, are these people really interested in this product? They brought John Boyega, who plays Finn in Star Wars: The Force Awakens and its eventual sequels, including The Last Jedi. Here, he was. They highlighted his tweet that was like, "Where's the story mode? Where's the story mode?" And then they made a big deal about, "Hey, we listened." It's like, yeah, well, that was a pretty obvious exclusion, right? Like, people love Star Wars for its lore. Like, you can't not have a story mode in that thing. What did you think of the gameplay? They showed the Theed map. They showed the Theed multiplayer map.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. I mean, they showed quite a bit of multiplayer gameplay, and
it was basically just a 30-minute match that they were cutting between YouTubers and.
I was gonna say it was a bit much.
Like pass players that could show and play. Like, I kind of wished that the whole thing was a little more focused. I would have liked to see a look at what you could do in multiplayer that shows everything. Like, I did pick up on what was going on, like the changes, but it was like I had to kind of pick up on that as they were playing. Like, no one was stopping to explain a lot of it. Yeah. They did have a couple of commentators there, I believe. Even iJustine from YouTube fame was there.
There was a lot going on.
I
felt there was a lot going on. I know EA says there'll be more vehicles and customization, abilities, classes, etc. I personally never played the first one, and by that I mean the last one. But I don't remember. Was there actually like flying ships around in multiplayer?
Yes. Okay. So I'll just kind of iron out why I'm excited, even though they didn't do a good job of showcasing why I should be excited. As I picked up on the changes that were made, I realized, okay, they made some smart changes even to the multiplayer. So in the first game, there were no classes. You just had a loadout, and you weren't actually defining your abilities or anything like that. You were basically just using cards. It was like a perk card system that you would upgrade, and you'd have to use your cards in combat. The other big thing about the first one that was a real letdown was if you wanted to play a hero or get into any vehicle, they weren't on the map. Well, the vehicles weren't, and the heroes weren't like, oh, I got enough kills, so now I do this. They were just random drops a la Quake. Like, they're just on the map. And I was like, that's not fun. Like, that's not what like, some people don't even want to play vehicles, right? So it's like, there's nothing wrong with just allowing people to have a vehicle. It seems like they did listen to a lot of the problems there from the multiplayer perspective, because as you saw them play, they were earning points, and then it seemed like every player had their own individual perk loadout, and in those perk loadouts were specific heroes, specific vehicles, and then once you've achieved those points from kills, from assists, from healing, like any game, you get those game score points from doing a multitude of things. You could then, when you respawn, pick one of your perks that you would be able to choose from. And it didn't seem like they were locking specific heroes to specific eras for battles as it relates to multiplayer, which I think is smart. It seems like you could pick it seems like you would unlock. I'd imagine there's some sort of loot box equivalent system. If it's a multiplayer game, there's going to be, but I imagine you would be able to then unlock different heroes, different vehicles from all those eras, and then slot those through your loadout. And then whenever you achieve the required in-game points, you can then activate those. Because we did see on the specific theme map, we saw some Darth Maul as a hero. We also saw some Han Solo, and we also saw some Rey. So those three are all from completely different eras, right? So it's nice that they're allowing that, because I wouldn't want it where it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to always see Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan on this map, because that's going to get tired, right? It's like, let's see something else. Let's see people use these characters in a strategic perspective. So that area seemed handled. The other area that seemed handled was the mode seemed to be like, they didn't reveal all the modes, but they showed the mode that they showed in the multiplayer was the theme map, and it was like a 3-tiered mode where it was the Separatists were pushing against the Theed, which is the capital of Naboo. That's Padme's planet. They were pushing, and as you destroy each area of defenses, so it's like, oh, you've destroyed the initial part to get into the building, you then start a new phase where the defenders are defending a completely different area, not unlike an Overwatch, right? Like the fact that they saw that we need to make these modes a little more interesting, I think that then shows that the different classes they have in the game, and even the heroes, could all have different uses or be a little more efficient depending on the mode, right? Because some heroes or some classes might be better at close quarters combat, some might be better at long range, right? So then depending on whatever stage of the mode you're in, some characters are better than others. And I like that. It adds a level of strategy that I think was needed to the multiplayer. Like, there's no denying that they nailed, and they nailed this in the first one, the look and feel of Star Wars. When you're running around, it feels like you're in a Star Wars movie, because you get blaster fire and there's everything blowing up and all this other jazz. And that stuff's real cool. But yeah, I'm glad that they addressed some of the issues as it relates to the modes with the multiplayer. And I'm probably going to get this on day one just because there is a campaign, and I did not get the last Battlefront. I played a lot of the beta, though. Like, I'm talking 8 to 10. Like, I played 8 to 10 hours. I played a lot of the beta, but it didn't sell me. There just wasn't enough there content-wise, and the multiplayer was just so. I just didn't like how it was structured. But yeah, this looks good. I'm not going to lie. It looked like they handled that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't show it in this mode either, because they were on Theed, but I believe space battles are in the game. That's another thing that was an omission from the last one. The other thing that I have not yet seen, and I hope that they add it, but I doubt that they will, in the original Battlefront, so not the reboot, the ones that released in the aughts, some of the space battles and battles in general, you could actually shut down the systems of the opposing team. So let's say you're in a space battle, or even a ground to air, or an air and ground to ground battle. Let's say there's a bulk Star Destroyer in the sky, right? And that Star Destroyer is where all the TIE fighters are coming from. And if you wanted to spawn in a TIE fighter, you have to get up there. So you have to take a ship, get up there, and then you can grab a bomber or whatever have you, right? Well, you could go in there as an enemy and shut those systems down. You could completely disable the Star Destroyer by flying your own ship into it. And then, of course, there are going to be enemies spawning there and, trying to get into ships. And you could just engage in a firefight on their ship as you try to disable systems that make it so that they maybe can't spawn this enemy, or that shields are down, so it's easier to destroy this. So I hope that things like that are in it, but they didn't show anything from a space perspective other than that, you could have spaceships in the ground battle as well, which they did show on the theme map.
Yeah.
That pretty much covers.
Summed it up, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think? I know that.
I've never been a.
Are you interested? Are you interested in getting it?
Not really.
No, not at all. They didn't sell you.
I don't even like the old Battlefronts, and
okay,
I know that's probably gonna be flack if anyone loves them. I know a lot of people do. I never cared enough.
Perfect.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I will. Not unless it gets really cheap.
Yeah, like I really want to get together with a group of friends. Hopefully, I can play that. Like,
if I have a group of friends playing it, that changes things. Obviously,
it changes. Yeah.
I would never have bought Overwatch until you told me to. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then this was their big showpiece. They wanted to, EA had there was a big omission. I think a lot of people were talking about how let down they were by this press conference, and overall I was a little bit too, mostly because that publisher EA is working on. They have like 3 other dev teams or 4 other dev teams working on Star Wars projects, including Amy Hennig and Visceral working on a single player Star Wars game. And if you don't know who Amy Hennig is, she was the writer and one of the big creative directors on Uncharted 1, 2, and some of 3. She actually didn't leave until The Last of Us. So yeah, she knows her thing. She knows a story or two, I should say. She was a big writer of both the first 2 Uncharted games and Uncharted 2. Award winning for its writing.
Yeah.
And they didn't show any of that. That's supposed to be like a third person, like it's supposed to be a third person action game a la Uncharted. It got shown years and years ago before before I believe studios changed and then kind of development changed a little bit. But no word on that. They did tweet, I believe, out that EA and everyone's kind of saying we don't want to saturate too much Star Wars in one press conference, so we're just allowing one Star Wars game to kind of dominate each press conference. And I understand why you want to do that, but at the same time, it's kind of frustrating knowing that they have a lot more in development and just sitting there going, I knew Battlefront 2 was coming out. I already saw trailers for it. I knew I'd probably get it. I'm glad that they're shoring up a lot of the issues, but it's like a lot of these other Star Wars properties are question marks entirely. We don't even know what the game is. And they're just, it's E3 that you're always more interested in what's coming in 2018 and 19 that you don't necessarily know yet, right? And, I'm sure next year we'll get that type of information, but it's still kind of disappointing. I kind of felt like they needed a big surprise, and I just didn't think that there was one. A Way Out was a surprise, but that's a surprise from an indie dev kind of taking his game to the next level a little bit. Working with a bigger publisher to allow his skill set or allow that studio skill set to be showcased, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there was room in that press conference for a end big moment where they're like, boom, and this is it. Now maybe from their perspective, that's Anthem. That's the big BioWare title, but they showed that on Microsoft's press conference. They didn't show that on theirs other than, hey, Anthem's a thing. Check out Microsoft's press conference. Like, yeah, I'm not as, I don't know. It was a typical EA press conference from that tape. It was middling. It had some highs. It had some lows.
I think it's going to be the worst press conference of them all.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, we'll have to discuss that at the end after we've had a chance to see and react to every single one.
Well,
but,
maybe I shouldn't do that because there's probably going to be, I won't say which one, but
I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's EA.
Dude.
EA exists. No hockey, no other sports games were shown, and no real
trash. We're just gonna say it.
No mention of what Respawn's doing, although I believe Respawn is also working on a Star Wars game. Again, they announced it turns out when you buy the rights to produce Star Wars games, you're gonna make.
Hey Ryan, do you want to know why NHL wasn't talked about?
Why?
Because they don't give a fuck about the game and they'll never work on any changes for it.
NHL's only been brought up on E3 like once or twice in the last 10 years. They almost never bring up NHL. But to me, wouldn't that sell better than FIFA? Especially the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on at the moment. Or they were, right?
There's still enough European people and people who love that sport. US is
nope, we're getting
so there is some soccer support there.
Just some random technical difficulties there. That's okay. Yeah, there is the love for soccer. You're right. So, yeah, I'm still curious. Kind of some of the other things. I don't know. To me, EA needs to start spending money on getting another IP going. It's been a long time, but there used to be a world where you were always talking about new IPs. And I say that, but they did spend some money on A Way Out, and that does look really good. But it wasn't. It's a long time ago now, but EA there was a phase of EA where they're taking chances on a lot of new IPs: Dead Space, Mirror's Edge, Syndicate.
You know what I want to see that's EA? I want to see a Sims game on the new gen of consoles.
Yeah, they don't have the Sims games come to consoles. They're usually PC.
I think they used to have them on consoles. PS3, I don't have them.
I think PS2 did. I remember playing a Sims like Sims 2 or something on PS2 and going, this controls really badly with a controller.
Well, Sims is definitely on PS3. I can confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've never. Sims is a fun thing to experiment with every now and then.
I don't know. I wish they would bring one out for the new gen because honestly, it would probably do decently well. There's enough people who've enjoyed The Sims in the past.
Oh yeah,
it's an easy. I'll fuck around for 20 minutes.
It will do well, and I think it's an off year for Sims anyway, because I'm pretty sure Sims featured during one of last year's or the year before that press conference. And to that respect, it's an off year for several of their developers. But I feel like the last several E3 press conferences, we've gotten a lot of teasers of what their studios are working on. We got teasers well before Anthem. Last year, it was like, we're working on a new IP. And then we've gotten studio looks at kind of things going on with some of those studios developing Star Wars properties as well. But again, I still kind of felt like there was a missing big, just like, holy crap, okay, EA's got something. We know they have something in the pipe, but like they're ready. And I get it. They really wanted to focus on Battlefront 2 and the fact that they listened to the fan feedback. But to me, that's like I guess I felt like they showed that up a little bit too much. Like, I'm not saying that that's not a good decision, but that's a no-brainer good decision. Of course you made that decision because everyone wanted you to make that decision. If you didn't make that decision, Battlefront 2 doesn't sell. Like, that's the extreme that you're at. You can't release 2 years in a row a game with no single player when people want it. Like, that doesn't. Of course you put that in there. Like, I just kind of wish there was a little bit more that they could have given us. And I think the press conference would have played a lot better had that have been the case. Yeah. So that's it. That's EA. They got E3 started on Saturday because that's how it works now. So we'll be back.
Yep.
We'll be back later with more E3 reaction videos. Our next press conference to react to will be Bethesda. No, sorry, Microsoft, then Bethesda. So we'll have that up soon. So thanks for listening and stay tuned for more E3. Should be fun. Games, they're a thing.